The Knights of the Cross by Henryk Sienkiewicz. Support me with a subscription, like or comment. Chapter 30. The Ksiądz Wiszonik dressed Zbyszko's wounds, and he stated that only one rib was broken. But the first day he could not affirm that the sick man would live, because he could not ascertain whether the heart had been injured or not. Sir Delorch was so ill toward morning that he was obliged to go to bed, and on the following day he could not move his hand nor his foot, without great pain in all the bones. The Princess Danusia and some other ladies of the court nursed the sick men and prepared for them, according to the prescriptions of the Ksiądz Wiszonik, different ointments and potions. But Zbyszko was very severely injured, and from time to time blood gushed from his mouth, and this alarmed the Ksiądz Wiszonik very much. He was conscious, however, and on the second day, although very weak, having learned from Danusia, to whom he owed his life, called Hlawa to thank and reward him. He remembered that he had received the check from Jagienka, and that had it not been for her kind heart, he would have perished. He feared that he never would be able to repay the good-hearted girl for her kindness, but that he would only be the cause of her sorrow. "I swore to my Panienka," said Hlawa, "on my honor of Olodika, that I would protect you. Therefore I will do it without any reward. You are indebted to her for your life." Zbyszko did not answer, but began to breathe heavily. The Czech was silent for a while. Then he said, "If you wish me to hasten to Bogdaniec, I will go. Perhaps you will be glad to see the old lord, because God only knows whether you will recover." "What does the Ksiądz Wiszonik say?" asked Zbyszko. "The Ksiądz Wiszonik says that he will know when the new moon comes. There are 4 days before the new moon." "Hey, then you need not go to Bogdaniec, because I will either die, or I will be well before my uncle could come." "Could you not send a letter to Bogdaniec? Sandaris will write one. Then they will know about you, and will engage a mass for you." "Let me rest now, because I am very ill. If I die, you will return to Zgorzelets and tell how everything happened. Then they can engage a mass. I suppose they will bury me here or in Ciechanów. I think they will bury you in Ciechanów or in Przasnysz, because only the Kerpi are buried in the forest, and the wolves howl over their graves. I heard that the prince intends to return with the court to Ciechanów in 2 days' time, and then to Warszawa." "They would not leave me here alone," answered Zbyszko. He guessed correctly, because that same day the princess asked the prince's permission to remain in the house in the wilderness, with Danusia and the ladies in waiting, and also with the Ksiądz Wiszonik, who was opposed to carrying Zbyszko to Przasnysz. Sir Delorch at the end of 2 days felt better, and he was able to leave his bed, but having learned that the ladies intended to remain, he stayed also, in order to accompany them on their journey and defend them in case the Saracens attacked them. Whence the Saracens could come, the Lothaриnger did not know. It is true that the people in the east used thus to call the Litwins, but from them no danger could threaten Kiechtut's daughter, Witold's sister, and the first cousin of the mighty Krakowski king, Jagiełło. But Sir Delorch had been among the Knights of the Cross for so long a time, that notwithstanding all he had heard in Mazowsze about the baptism of the Litwa, and about the union of the 2 crowns on the head of one ruler, he could not believe that anyone could expect any good from the Litwins. Thus the Knights of the Cross had made him believe, and he had not yet entirely lost all faith in their words. In the meantime an incident occurred which cast a shadow between Prince Janusz and his guests. One day, before the departure of the court, Brother Godfried and Brother Rotgear, who had remained in Ciechanów, came accompanied by Sir de Forsey, who was a messenger of bad news to the Knights of the Cross. There were some foreign guests at the court of the Krzyżacy Starosta in Lubowa. They were Sir de Forsey and also Herr von Burgau and Herr Meiniger, both belonging to families which had rendered great services to the order. They, having heard many stories about Jurand of Spykow, determined to draw the famous warrior into an open field and ascertain for themselves whether he really was as dreadful as represented. The Starosta opposed the plan, giving as a reason that there was peace between the order and the Mazowiecki princes, but finally, perhaps hoping thus to get rid of his terrible neighbor, not only connived at the expedition, but even furnished the armed Knechts, The knights sent a challenge to Durand, who immediately accepted it under the condition that they would send away the soldiers, and that 3 of them would fight with him and 2 of his companions on the boundaries of Slonsk and Spykow. But when they refused to send away the Knechts, or to retire from the land belonging to Spykow, he suddenly fell upon them, exterminated the Knechts, pierced Herr dreadfully with a spear, took Herr von Bergau into captivity and put him into the Spykowski dungeon. Dvorcy alone escaped, and after 3 days wandering in the Mazowiecki forests, having learned from some pitch-burners that there were some brothers of the order in Ciechanów, he succeeded in reaching them. He and the brothers of the order made a complaint to the prince and asked for the punishment of Durand, and for an order for the deliverance of Herr von Bergau. This news disturbed the good understanding between the prince and his guests, because not only the 2 newly arrived brothers, but also Hugo von Danveld and Siegfried von Löwe, began to beseech the prince to render justice to the order, to free the boundaries from the plunderer, and to punish him once for all his offenses. Hugo von Danveld, having his own grievance against Durand, the remembrance of which burned him with shame and grief, asked for vengeance almost threateningly. "The complaint will go to the Grand Master," he said, "and if we be not able to get justice from your grace, he will obtain it himself, even if the whole Mazowsha helped that robber." But the prince, although naturally good-tempered, became angry and said, "What kind of justice do you ask for? If Durand had attacked you first, then I would surely punish him. But your people were the first to commence hostilities. Your starosta gave the Knechts permission to go on that expedition. Durand only accepted the challenge and asked that the soldiers be sent away. Shall I punish him for that? You attacked that dreadful man, of whom everybody is afraid, and voluntarily brought calamity upon yourselves. What do you want then? Shall I order him not to defend himself when it pleases you to attack him?" "It was not the order that attacked him, but its guests, foreign knights," answered Hugo. "The order is responsible for its guests, and then the Knechts from the Lubowski garrison were there. Could the starosta allow his guests to be slaughtered?" Here the prince turned to Siegfried and said, "You must take heed lest your wiles offend God." But the stern Siegfried answered, "Herr von Bergau must be released from captivity, because the men of his family were high dignitaries in the order, and they rendered important services to the cross." "And Meiniger's death must be avenged," added Hugo von Danveld. Thereupon the prince arose and walked threateningly toward the Germans, but after a while, evidently having remembered that they were his guests, he restrained his anger, put his hand on Siegfried's shoulder, and said, "Listen, you wear a cross on your mantle, therefore answer according to your conscience. Upon that cross, was Durand right or was he not?" "Herr von Bergau must be released from prison," answered Siegfried von Löwe. There was as a moment of silence. Then the prince said, "God grant me patience." Siegfried continued sharply, his words cutting like a sword. "The wrong which was done to us in the persons of our guests is only one more occasion for complaint. From the time the order was founded, neither in Palestine, nor in Siedmiograd, nor among the heathenish Litwa, has any man wronged us so much as that robber from Spykow. Your Highness, we ask for justice and vengeance not for one wrong, but for thousands, not for the blood shed once, but for years of such deeds, for which fire from heaven ought to burn that nest of wickedness and cruelty. Whose moanings entreat God for vengeance? Ours. Whose tears? Ours. We have complained in vain. Justice has never been given us." Having heard this, Prince Janusz began to nod his head and said, "Hey, formerly the Krzyżacy were received hospitably in Spykow, and Durand was not your foe until after his dear wife died on your rope. And how many times have you attacked him first, wishing to kill him, as in this last case, because he challenged and defeated your knights? How many times have you sent assassins after him, or shot at him with a crossbow from the forest? He attacked you, it is true, because vengeance burns within him. But have you not attacked peaceful people in Mazowsha? Have you not taken their herds, burned their houses, and murdered the men, women, and children? And when I complained to the Grand Master, he sent me this reply from Marienburg: customary frolic of the boundaries. Let me be in peace. Was it not you who captured me when I was without arms during the time of peace on my own land? Had it not been for your fear of the mighty Krakowski king, probably I would have had to moan until now in captivity. Who ought to complain? With such gratitude you repaid me, who belong to the family of your benefactors. Let me be in peace. It is not you who have the right to talk about justice." Having heard this, the Knights of the Cross looked at each other impatiently, angry because the prince mentioned the occurrence at Zlatoria in the presence of Sir de Forcy. Therefore Hugo von Danveld, wishing to finish the conversation about it, said, "That was a mistake, your highness, and we made amends for it, not on account of fear of the Krakowski king, but for the sake of justice. And with regard to the frolics on the boundaries, the Grand Master cannot be held responsible, because on every frontier there are some restless spirits." "Then you say this yourself, and still you ask for the punishment of Durand. What do you wish then?" "Justice and punishment." The prince clenched his bony fists and repeated, "God grant me patience." "Your princely majesty must also remember," said Danveld further, "that our wantons only wrong lay people who do not belong to the German race, but your men raise their hand against the German order, and for this reason they offend our Savior himself." "Listen," said the prince, "do not talk about God. You cannot deceive him." Then, having placed his hands on the Krzyżac's shoulders, he shook him so strongly that he frightened him. He relented immediately and said mildly, "If it be true that our guests attacked Durand first and did not send away the soldiers, I will not blame him. But had Durand really accepted the challenge?" Having said this, he looked at Sir de Forcy, winking at him to deny it, but the latter, not wishing to lie, answered, "He asked us to send our soldiers away and to fight 3 against 3. "Are you sure of that?" "Upon my honor?" Herr von Bergau and I agreed, but Meiniger did not consent. Here the prince interrupted. "Starosta from Szczytno, you know better than anybody else that Durand would not miss a challenge." Then he turned to all present and said, "If one of you will challenge Durand to a fight on horseback or on foot, I give my permission. If he be taken prisoner or killed, then Herr von Bergau will be released without paying any ransom. Do not ask me for anything else, because I will not grant it." After these words, there was a profound silence. Hugo von Danveld, Siegfried von Love, Brother Rotgier, and Brother Gottfried, although brave, knew the dreadful Lord of Speichow too well to dare to challenge him for life or death. Only a foreigner from a far distant country, like de Lorch or de Forcy, would do it. But de Lorch was not present during the conversation, and Sir de Forcy was still too frightened. "I have seen him once," he muttered, "and I do not wish to see him any more." Siegfried von Love said, "It is forbidden the monks to fight in single combat, except by special permission from the Grand Master and the Grand Marshal. But I do not ask for permission for a combat, but for the release of von Bergau and the punishment by death of Durand. You do not make the laws in this country. Our Grand Master will know how to administer justice. Your Grand Master has nothing to do with Mazovsha. The Emperor and the whole German nation will help him. The King of Poland will help me, and he is more powerful than the German Emperor. Does your Highness wish for a war with the Order? If I wanted a war, I would not wait for you to come to Mazovsha, but would go toward you. You need not threaten me, because I am not afraid of you. What shall I say to the Grand Master? He has not asked you anything. Tell him what you please. Then we will avenge ourselves." Thereupon the prince stretched forth his arm and began to shake his finger close to the Krzyżac's face. "Keep quiet," said he angrily. "Keep quiet. I gave you permission to challenge Durand, but if you dare to invade this country with the army of the Order, then I will attack you, and you will stay here not as a guest, but as a prisoner." Evidently his patience was entirely exhausted, because he threw a cap violently on the table and left the room, slamming the door. The Knights of the Cross became pale, and Sir de Forcy looked at them askance. "What will happen now?" asked Brother Rotgier, who was the first to break the silence. Hugo von Danveld turned to Sir de Forcy and, menacing him with his fists, said, "Why did you tell him that you attacked Durand?" "Because it is true. You should have lied. I came here to fight and not to lie. Well, you fought well indeed. And you, did you not run away from Durand of Speichow?" "Pax," said von Love, "this knight is a guest of the Order." It is immaterial what he said, added Brother Gottfried. They would not punish Durand without a trial, and in the court the truth would come out. What will be done now? Repeated Brother Rotgier. There was a moment of silence. Then the sturdy and virulent Siegfried von Love spoke. We must finish once for all with that bloody dog, said he. Herr von Burgau must be released from his fetters. We will gather the garrisons from Szczytno, Innsbruck, and Lubowa. We will summon the Chelminsk nobility and attack Durand. It is time to settle with him. We cannot do it without permission from the Grand Master. If we succeed, the Grand Master will be pleased, said Brother Gottfried. But if we do not succeed, if the prince go against us, he will not do that if there is peace between him and the order. There is peace, but we are going to violate it. Our garrisons will not be sufficient to fight against the Mazars. Then the Grand Master will help us, and there will be a war. Danveld frowned again and became thoughtful. No, no, said he after a while. If we be successful, the Grand Master will be pleased. Envoys will be sent to the prince. There will be negotiations, and we will go scot-free. But in case of defeat, the order will not intercede for us and will not declare war. Another Grand Master is necessary for that. The Polski king is behind the prince, and the Grand Master will not quarrel with him. But we have taken the Dobrzyńska province. It is evident that we are not afraid of Krakow. There was some pretext, Opolczyk. We took it apparently in pledge, and then— Here he looked around and said quietly, I heard in Marienburg that if they threaten us with war, we will return the province. Ah, said Brother Rotgier, if we had Markward Salzbach with us, or Schomberg who killed Witold's whelps, he would find some remedy against Durand. Witold was the king's viceroy and a grand duke. Notwithstanding that, Schomberg was not punished. He killed Witold's children and went scot-free. Verily, there is great lack among us of people who can find a remedy for everything. Having heard this, Hugo von Danveld put his elbows on the table, leaned his head on his hands, and plunged into deep thought. Then his eyes became bright. He wiped, according to his custom, his moist, thick lips with the upper part of his hand and said, May the moment in which you mentioned, pious brother, the name of the valiant Schomberg be blessed. Why, have you found a remedy? Asked Siegfried von Love. Speak quickly, exclaimed Brother Gottfried. Listen, said Hugo. Durand has a daughter here, his only child, whom he loves dearly. Yes, so he has. We know her. The Princess Anna Danuta loves her also. Yes, listen then. If you capture this girl, Durand will give as a ransom for her, not only Burgau, but all his prisoners, himself and Spykow. By St. Bonifacius' blood shed in Dutcham, exclaimed Brother Gottfried, it would be as you say. Then they were silent, as if frightened by the boldness and the difficulties of the enterprise. But after a while Brother Rotgier turned toward Siegfried von Love and said, Your judgment and experience are equal to your bravery. What do you think about this plan? I think that the matter is worthy of consideration. Because, said Rotgier further, the girl is a lady-in-waiting with the princess. The princess loves her as if she were her own daughter. Think, pious brother, what an uproar will arise.
Remember to subscribe.